Good morning. Welcome to our session on API management, lessons from the front lines. Excited that you're all here, and we have some interesting case studies that we want to go with you. So let's get started. Here's a quick snapshot of our agenda, right? So we're just going to cover 6 common patterns that we see in the field from various customers, and it'll be good to understand what those patterns are, give you an example of a customer reference, and then maybe talk about some of the investments that we are doing in that space to improve that pattern. So let's get started. So yeah, APIs are everywhere. They are increasingly becoming more and more common in all kinds of workloads. Akamai says that more than 80% of internet traffic is just API calls. And it is becoming more and more common with AI and agents. Similarly, again, these are all stats most of us know, so I'll not spend too much time on this, but the investment in APIs and managing APIs is increasingly becoming more and more important as the complexity of APIs and the sprawl of APIs is increasing in the industry. So let's talk about why does API management matter, right? API management, we are seeing API scale across every corner of the enterprise, especially with the rise of AI and agents. So API management is that sweet spot that helps bring that complexity under control. You have visibility, security, and consistent governance across various environments, and API management helps you do that. So again, most of you are familiar with API management, but just a quick refresher. API management is more than a gateway, right? It's that connective tissue between your data, apps, and teams. So all the way from legacy APIs to the latest open API models, or from SAP to GitHub Copilot, we help you govern, expose, and scale it all. And we also have the API Center now, a single place to catalog and track all of your APIs within your organization, no matter where they run. So that's how we look at API management as a platform today. So, and API management, its greatest strength is its flexibility, right? To support various kinds of use cases and roles, like all the way from API developers who want to define, manage, and scale APIs. Similarly, app developers, be it external or internal, they get secure access through the developer portal or through some of the new AI-based extensions that we have created. And similarly, platform teams are able to manage APIs at scale with consistent governance, security, and policy enforcement. And lastly, business customers, right, who are not very familiar with code, they can use low-code options or no-code options to consume these APIs. So, and it just does not stop at APIs, right? It deeply integrates with Azure integration services, workloads, and CI/CD tool chains, making it a holistic API management experience across the API lifecycle. Let's just talk about some business outcomes now, right? So recently, Forrester came up with this study that they are seeing about 315% ROI with Azure API management over 3 years. So, and it's not just about how good the technology or the product is, right? It's also about accelerating time to market, reducing those integration costs, and empowering your developers to do more with less resources. And API management helps you do all that. Feel free to download the report to read more details about it. So yeah, let's just talk about the presence, right? We have over 37,000 customers that trust us with their mission-critical APIs, and over 90% of them in Fortune 500 companies also trust API management. We are able to support customers' key APIs and their use cases across various industries. Let's just get started and double-click into the kinds of use cases and patterns we are seeing in the industries. I'll get Alex to kick it off.
Thank you, Anish. It's a pleasure to be here. I work as a global black belt, and I have the privilege of working with customers across the globe and witness their journeys on using Azure API Management. Wondering how many of you use Azure API Management already? Quite a lot, so very interesting. And I think this session will be valuable in terms of the patterns that we have been tracking over time with some specific scenarios, and we have some customers' stories to share. First thing first, and I believe that most of you are doing API first at this moment, right? A lot of companies, they started with a code first approach, but then they evolved to an API first development. And we see that a lot of enterprises, they are embarking in this API first approach because they want to start early in the process with high quality APIs, and they want to provide more agility to the teams. We see in a lot of circumstances with an API first approach that they deliver the APIs both to front ends and back end teams, and to have those teams to work in parallel, okay? And then security also being shift left, right? To start early in the process by incorporating the right security mechanisms in the APIs. And then, of course, we need to manage all these APIs and to allow them to scale. We see the typical examples of retail companies with the Black Friday kind of peak usage, and then, of course, we need to allow that kind of growth and that kind of scale. And API management provides this secret ingredients with the gateway, with the developer portal, that allows to have a frictionless consume of the APIs. One good example of this is Moneris. That is a fintech company from Canada that they specialize on payment processing. And what's interesting about this is they work in a high regulated industry, okay? So security is top of mind for them. And they started with an API first approach as part of their business model. So they built the products, the financial services products, with the APIs that they have developed. Because in a lot of circumstances, it's a little bit the opposite. We build the systems, we build the applications, and then we attach APIs to that, and then we try to put an API economy on top. So they start with an API first approach, not just in technical terms, but in business terms as well. And I think that's really important. And then, of course, as a regulated industry, enterprise-grade security is top of mind for them, right? They cannot put security as an afterthought. I took an image on their developer portal that is quite interesting, the way that they build this in order to build their API economy. So if you go to their developer portal, you can see that they support different personas for different developers consuming the APIs. You can easily create an account to get an access token and access a sandbox environment, and they focus on reducing the time for the first API call. And then you can jump into the API definitions where they have information about the different APIs, and if you select one of them, you will see the typical operations, and you can try it out directly from the developer portal, okay? So they built this nice experience on top of the out-of-the-box developer portal, and in the next session, we'll see what's possible in terms of customizations.
Yeah, and also talking about how we are investing in this particular area, developer experience becomes quite important. So we are trying to go to the places where developers are, right? Which is GitHub as well as VS Code. And how can we improve the experiences of developers in those areas? And that is where we are coming up with AI-powered authoring, which is already in GA. You can write and troubleshoot policies with Copilot in Azure portal. We are also increasingly embracing schema-first kind of workflows. You are able to design, test, and deploy everything in VS Code with our VS Code extension for API management and API Center. And lastly, you can also track and drive a lot of monitoring with diagnostics and developer portal. So all of these things are in our journey towards improving the developer experience with some of the most cutting-edge tools that are available to us for API-first workflows. In addition to that, we are also, like what Alex mentioned, API security continues to be a top-of-mind topic for most of our customers. So we are trying to see how we can build security into every layer of our customer's product, right? So we recently launched the Defender for APIs threat detection, which has gone GA. And we have, with API management policies, security policies, we are able to offer protection for most of the OWASP top 10 security risks and multiple other risks. We also have credential-less access, right, for SAP data. And finally, applications, which is under preview, we have OAuth power security access. So that is helping customers improve their security posture. And lastly, we are also increasingly thinking about open API enhancements, which is the lingua franca for APIs. So how do we drive stronger validation? How do we embrace a schema-first design where we can actually use advanced schema constructs as well as use Copilot-based editing techniques to improve the overall customer experience? So you will hear more about some of these developments in the coming months, as well as in the sessions which are going to happen later today. Yeah, Alex.
So it's awesome to start from scratch with an API-first approach, and now vibe coding and building those APIs very quickly. But we know that most of enterprises, they face a lot of technical depth. They need to modernize from different applications. And we have seen that adopting a microservices architecture, adopting containers and projects like Kubernetes has been growing a lot in the enterprise. And of course, this puts some challenges, okay? In a lot of circumstances, we have an explosion of these microservices APIs that are built. So then we need to manage all those APIs at scale. Sometimes it's very important for us to have like a catalog of the existing APIs so that when building or when modernizing these applications, we ensure to reuse existing APIs and not duplicating them, right? And then there are new protocols, like for example, gRPC is quite popular with containers and Kubernetes that of course then we need to support as well. Operational efficiency is very important in these kind of architectures. Microservices, sometimes they get a little bit of bad rep because it comes out as a bit of complexity. People don't know about the interconnectivity about the different applications. So again, having a good observability to understand what's happening, it's very important. And then scalability. Using Kubernetes, we have a great advantage of using the Kubernetes control plane to allow us to scale automatically, okay? And things like the self-hosted gateway that works very well with Kubernetes allows us to, to scale on demand as well so that we achieve the right performance. And Zeiss is a company that started in Germany. Maybe some of you are wearing lenses from Zeiss. They started in Germany, but now it's a multinational company. When preparing for this, it was curious to know that Zeiss now is building lenses that allows to build computer chips, okay? So in fact, they are doing a lot of different things. And it's a company with almost 200 years. And of course, they accumulated over the time a lot of legacy systems. So they embarked in this very interesting journey on adopting containers, on adopting frameworks like Dapper, and they leverage the Azure API Management in order to expose these APIs. And interestingly as well, they have a specialized API management instance in order to provide an interface with the manufacturing that they have in the factories from Zeiss, okay? Interconnecting then with different ERP systems that as a German company, they use SAP without much surprise, right?
Yeah, so Alex already talked about self-hosted gateway and how it is a critical part of our strategy, right? To enable and extend API management to anywhere you need, any kind of environment, right? Be it on-prem, other clouds, you have a multi-cloud strategy, or even within Kubernetes or containerized environments. So we continue to invest in this area with more policies and ability to have more enterprise grade features such as managed identity. In addition to that, we are also exploring expanding self-hosted gateway into newer tiers besides our V1 tiers later on in FY26. So that is something more to look forward to. Then when you think about modernizing, it's like most customers don't start from scratch. They start with a sprawl of apps. Maybe they have some .NET apps. Maybe they have some Java services. Maybe they have some cloud native APIs. How do you put all these things under the same umbrella and have consistent governance? And that is where API management further continues to help customers with stuff like API versioning, analytics, authentication and access control, which is enterprise grade, which is uniform across all of these kinds of applications. And that helps you drive seamless integration. And we continue to think more about this particular area and see how we can improve. So would love to hear more use cases if you have any specific use cases on how we can improve the product here. And lastly, yeah, gRPC support is another area that we are increasingly seeing gaining momentum. Self-hosted gateway already supports gRPC, and we have gRPC support in our managed gateway in preview. And yeah, it helps you proxy gRPC endpoints and gain access to high-performance APIs. So yeah.
It's a good segue to gRPC because some SaaS providers, for example, they are supporting new protocols as gRPC. And the way that we integrate with the different SaaS and applications is very important, right? Because every organization, they have been adopting different SaaS solutions over the years. And sometimes it's challenging in order to provide connectivity with those systems. They use different protocols. Of course, REST APIs is predominant as a communication interface, but some of them they have extended to use GraphQL, for example. The connectivity is important, not just establishing the connectivity, but then doing it securely. In a lot of circumstances, the user token, the way that the user will authenticate and authorize in these SaaS applications is very important. So we need to manage tokens from one system to the other, handle different identity providers, and that's a key aspect as well. And then again, the observability, because if we are changing information in these critical systems within the enterprise, we need to provide an end-to-end traceability on what was changed, right? In order to, if something goes wrong, we need to troubleshoot them. We have been seeing over the years that a synchronous interface is not enough. In a lot of scenarios, we need to put asynchronous kind of patterns, right? Then putting messaging components like Service Bus and others as part of the mix. And sometimes we need like long-running transactions being handled by the platform automatically. And this is another cool customer example. This one is from Switzerland, Bucci. They are very well known for creating equipment for labs. Okay? If you have seen these rotating bulbs, glass bulbs that are using in the labs, they are the main manufacturer of that, but they create all sorts of equipment. And over the years, they have grown their business through acquisitions, okay? So they got a lot of new acquisitions. And what happens when you do that kind of strategy is that you end up having different SaaS systems, because just by coincidence that they use the same ERP. So they had this big challenge of integrating things like SAP, Salesforce, and others. So they were leveraging Azure API Management in order to provide this connectivity layer with support for OData and other protocols, but also other components from Azure Integration Services, such as Logic Apps that they have, that we know that has more than 1,000 connectors. That really helps in order to provide a connectivity for these different SaaS providers and applications. And also for messaging patterns, they also leverage service bus, and they develop custom code with the power of Azure Functions as well.
Yeah, so as part of helping and supporting SaaS providers, right? So many enterprises generally rely on SAP. So, and those APIs are generally very hard to consume. So with our ability to support OData and proxy OData endpoints, we are able to provide customers the ability to get that data and use it in the modern API context. So that is something we are increasingly looking at. How can we actually further make it better in the context of open API specs, etc. So those are the kinds of investments that we are investigating internally. But generally, this is an area we see strong interest from customers, and that is something we are exploring here. In addition to that, GraphQL. There was a lot of talk about GraphQL a few years back, and we have seen some adoption from customers, especially customers in the front end and mobile development, right? So where they kind of value flexibility and efficiency, they like to use GraphQL along with REST-based APIs. The fact that we are able to support GraphQL and API management provides a single umbrella to manage multiple APIs, be it REST, be it GraphQL, be it gRPC, everything. And yeah, so this is something that has been helpful for our customers. Let's look at the fourth pattern.
I realized that in this room, because it's very wide, you are like watching tennis, right? Switching from one speaker to the other. Then, of course, in this pattern, we need to integrate, we need to provide interfaces for users. And here we have seen that enterprises, they want to build very fast this kind of UIs. Again, now with vibe coding, it's another wave of how fast it is to build these UIs. And over the years, a lot of companies, they have been using low-code strategies like Power Apps, Power Automate in order to build these interfaces for the users. It's interesting because in this pattern, we could have a little bit of best of both worlds. We can have a pro-code approach while building the APIs and releasing the APIs, and sometimes backed with the back-end implementation of those APIs. And then we establish here a contract between this pro-code and low-code world, and API management is in the middle, mediating this relation, right, between the pro-code and low-code developers. So that then the low-code developers, they consume the APIs easily, because the low-code platforms, they understand very well an open API specification. They understand what goes in, what goes out, and it's easy to build interfaces in that way. And I found this story also very interesting from Tokyo Metro. Okay, if you have been to Tokyo, most likely you have used Tokyo Metro. They serve around 6 million of people every day, so they have a massive scale. And the subway infrastructure, they needs to be maintained, and they need to ensure that is in the right conditions. And they were having a lot of effort in order to ensure that the tracks were operating effectively, and they wanted to be better doing this, and they applied an architecture that describes a little bit this relation between the pro code and the low code. That in the bottom you'll see what they call the professional engineer, might be a data scientist, that is building custom models, custom vision models that is able to detect anomalies in the tracks. Okay, so by having vision recognition of these anomalies, and then through Azure Functions, they expose APIs in API management to be consumed by the citizen developer. They call it here like the amateur developer. someone that doesn't have knowledge about programming, but they can build the UI, in this case, to build like a custom application for anomaly detection, and in this case, reduce the effort needed, to maintain the tracks and ensure that the tracks are working properly.
Yeah. So in terms of low code and no code kind of investments, obviously we have the Power App connector for API management. It kind of unlocks more use cases for business users, right? Your ability to access these APIs and consume them easily. So yeah, so this is something that has been focused on bridging that gap between pro code APIs and low code builders. In addition to that, we recently have launched the API Center connector for Copilot Studio. This is in public preview. Generative AI is becoming more mainstream. Everyone is building copilots. So how do we enable people who are beyond developers, right? Who are on the business side, who are not very much familiar with coding? How can they access and browse a set of curated APIs and convert them into actions? And the API Center connector for Copilot Studio helps you do that.
And then we have the event-driven architecture, a very typical kind of architecture that we have seen in the enterprise as well. We've seen in a lot of industries the need, to have systems reacting to events. With the growth of real-time data, big data, we have seen this world combining with the world of APIs as well. And in this situation, we need to handle different event schemas. We need to handle the versioning of these handle schemas. And also, in terms of the observability, it's a challenge because we need to provide insights in order to understand how these events are being processed in an event-driven architecture. Workflows and with logic apps as well. We can provide stateful workflows that react to events, okay? And within Azure API Management, we have a lot of capabilities already, and we will discuss some more about handling those events automatically. And then we need to scale the consumers to multiple event brokers. That's one of the nice things about this pattern, right? Is that we can have like a model of publishers and subscribers, and we can have like multiple publishers publishing messages and then having a queue mechanism to process in a specific rhythm. And that's what Mercedes-Benz has been doing, a very interesting story as well. And they want to modernize the way that they were handling the vehicles. So they started to treat the vehicles as IoT devices, systems that deliver a lot of telemetry about what's going on, but then also enabling APIs so that we could control the vehicle remotely, right? So that we can update the software, we can unlock the car, we can change the air conditioner, etc. And what's interesting as well from Mercedes is that they open this platform so that partners could build new experiences on top of the APIs that they are providing, okay? Of course, always with the consent of the user, but allows to have more integrated experiences in that regard. And they have developed a very nice developer portal as well, that underneath those APIs that they are being served with API management. So in this case, we have the scale of events that we are receiving from IoT, right? And then we have the different APIs that could allows us to control the vehicle synchronously, and those APIs are being served with API management.
Yeah, so this is an interesting investment that we have made this year. So we have a lot of customers used to ask about native service bus integration with an API management. And oftentimes they are forced to use some kind of middleware like functions or logic apps to be able to communicate with service bus. So we have created a built-in policy from which you can directly send messages to service bus queues or topics. This is something that is coming soon in Q3 of 2025. It'll be a good, perfect way to offload tasks or trigger async workflows to service bus. And this is the first case that we are enabling. Would love to hear more scenarios, and we are actually going to play a demo in one of the sessions later this evening around this integration to talk about how this works. Similarly, we continue to invest more in system data plane events to bring the visibility and observability within Event Grid. So recently we launched a preview of system plane events around backend circuit breaker triggers or tokens expiry, etc. And we already had a bunch of system plane events even before, but the idea and the vision is to continue to expand on the system events so that it is as helpful as possible to the users of our product. And all of these are easily accessible through Event Grid, which helps build a lot of notifications and ability to understand how to manage this with real-time alerts. Yeah, so let's move to the next pattern.
And then we have AI, right? Top of mind now. And of course, we see customers wanting to adopt AI and to infuse AI in their workloads. We say that there is no AI without APIs. So APIs, they play a key role in the architecture. And we have been, leveraging Azure API Management to provide access to different APIs related to AI, starting with the models that they provide APIs from the beginning. In fact, it's curious to know that the first product from OpenAI was called the API a lot of years before ChatGPT, okay? Because they had the vision initially that people will consume the models through APIs, but even before OpenAI, Microsoft was delivering cognitive services already through APIs as well. So now with providing this traffic mediation and control for the different APIs, we see customers that they need to integrate with AI like frontier models, but at the same time, they need to integrate with legacy systems that might have vital data in order to pass that data into the AI workloads. And everyone consuming AI at a certain point, they want to control how much tokens are being consumed, by whom, to understand spending, how much is costing. And that is something that you need, to have this in this mediation layer, this kind of capability. And then, of course, enterprises, they are afraid about security and safety concerns about using these AI systems, whether it's a prompt that could be malicious, put it in the system, or sensitive data that companies within the enterprise are putting in the prompt, and we might lose, control about that data. So that's also a very important topic. And then inference scalability, because we could use different models, and we know that there is a scarcity of GPUs, and sometimes we don't have enough capacity to enable the workload that we want, right? And so having the ability to scale automatically on demand and to load balancing between different AI endpoints is very important as well. We have picked this reference that is pretty cool. This company, DID, they are building avatars very easily. You just go to their website and you upload a picture, might be your face picture, and with a simple instructions, it will build the avatar for you, right? You can use then this avatar for training, customer support, whatever you like. Microsoft is partnering with DID to provide, seamless experience within Teams so that you can have an avatar using Teams. And they understand that it's critical to integrate APIs as part of this workflow. And they are also implementing Azure API Management so that when a certain user access to the APIs, okay, the APIs are being exposed through Azure API Management. And because the customer data is very important, so it's not just about the text that we say that the avatar will say. They want to enable interconnectivity with enterprise customers, that they have their own APIs exposing knowledge and exposing data, okay? And they are leveraging Azure API Management as well to mediate this interaction between the enterprise data and their platform consuming those APIs. Okay? So very interesting. Invite you to have an experiment with the avatar and build your own.
Yeah, so these are some of the investments that have been already covered even yesterday in the keynote, but AI Gateway continues to be one of our top investment, where we continue to help customers govern AI traffic and their workflows, right? So ability to help them with controlling access to models, token rate limit, or set quotas, budgets, etc. Similarly, moderation and safety is something that is very important for most customers. You will actually see a lot of interesting demos in our session on AI later today, which Andre and Julia are going to cover. But that is another big area that is top of mind for us. And finally, performance, right? How do we enable performance at the best, in the best way, and also limit spending for customers through features like semantic caching, etc., are basically helping our customers. So yeah, so this is an area where we are interesting big time. But it's not just about access to AI models, right? What about AI agent to API access? What about AI agent to a model access, AI agent to an AI agent access? So we are continuing to invest a lot more into protocols. Protocols being starting with MCP, which is right now in public preview, where we are actually able to expose any APIs within API management as a REST API into an MCP server, which could be utilized by an agent for various functionality. We are continuing to going to expand on this capability, set of capabilities for MCPs, by bringing in pass-through. If you have your own MCP servers, you can bring those into API management and start to expose those things as well. And you'll hear more about this in our sessions later on. And finally, governance. API Center helps you aggregate all of these MCP servers in one place and be able to manage them and manage the sprawl. And multi-agent orchestration was something yesterday Balan as well covered in his session. So we are able to drive multi-agent orchestration using MCP and semantic kernel, and you can actually build complex workflows with multiple agents. And all of these things are available today with a lot more investment and a lot more capabilities to come and be announced in the coming months. But you'll hear some of those things in the session with Andre later on. So those are some of the key use cases that we wanted to cover. Now we would love to invite our special guest Christos from Sensive to talk about how they use your API management in their workflows.
Hello, yes, good morning for me. I'm Christos, Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Sensive. I have been working delivering Tier 1 mission-critical systems that operate at scale. And equally, I would like to share that some of the patterns I have seen I used before in other lives, and they really work both scaling up and down. So really very good to also start in your transformation journey. So a few words about Sensive. It's a spin-off from UCL, a very famous university in the UK. 20 years ago, the CEO used to call it the Rolls-Royce of sensors. If you live in the UK and you travel by train, next time check for a solar panel, and then on the ground you might notice a grey box with a white cone. Also the new version can appear there, but that's measuring real time what's the condition on the ground. But when you have a good engine, you need also a good platform to do this. So for us, this is exactly what is Azure, where all of the data are coming on Azure, they are processed, and we generate business alerts. These are the ones that inform the operators that the infrastructure is safe to operate, and of course, we keep everyone safe and happy. Otherwise, there will be slow trains, or there might be very slow traffic on the road. But some numbers. The technology is running 24/7. We cover nearly all the time zones that I know. We're in more than 3,000 sites. We have more than 150,000 nodes, and of course, terabytes of data. Actually, we run some of the biggest databases on Azure, and yeah, with the Ninja teams from SQL, we're having fun trying to debug and try to optimize this simply because they're massive instances. These are actually 28 big instances that we're now on the journey to actually our own sensor project, like the Phoenix project, where we try to convert them into microservices and break them down. Of course, how can we do that? API management. Some more context, we have 50,000 users, B2B business users, and for every 100 sensors, we have about one camera. This actually demonstrates the number of interactions between all of the components on the ground, but those send data to the cloud that need to be processed. So for us, the biggest challenge is to be able to map the right amount of devices to the right customers, of course, in a secure way, scalable way. We're not doing this alone. It's some of the internal teams, but also we work with Black Marble. Some of those are there. They help us, so speak to them. You will hear about their transformation journey we have been working on. And I'll become more specific. In this journey to transform the business from sensors to services that are actually software services powered by AI and data. We started small. We started focusing on the cameras first because they interact a lot with the local sensors, and we try to generate more meaningful insights. And API management helped us to be able to do this mapping between devices, permissions, and use cases. And equally, I would like to share some extra lessons to help you in your journey, which for me is the intersection between people and data. And that means we need to think about the process. So for different customers, they use in different way the infrastructure. So we need to make sure that it is always running and is scalable. And based on that, we tried really to use some of the abstractions from the API management to reflect everything as a resource. And then we send all of the data on Fabric. We generate additional intelligence, then we write the data back to the databases, and via API management, we serve them to the right customers. But of course, then another interesting lesson, some customers, they connected this to their own SCADA systems because they have their own local teams. And guess what? Some of the databases were hammered because all of those SCADA systems just pull a lot of data. So that's, again, another useful capability from API management, because now we can throttle the messages, and that also helps us to understand better our product, which is why I always tend to focus on the business outcomes, not necessarily on the technology. Because at the end of the day, all of the sensors generate data. They go to the cloud, then they generate more data that need to be throttled in both directions, but also with regards to what actually needs to be processed, because sometimes we have simple events, other times more complicated events. We have also implemented our own version of LLM to help make sense of this very complicated data. But now, with API management, we also try to make available to our partners and distributors. And that's another capability of APIM, because we can even do it bit by bit, version by version. And that also helps us to understand how we can price it accordingly. So it's not only a component. My message here is like, you need to think of this as a strategic injection into the business or into your customers, because then this helps them really reinvent and think again, what are we really doing? How can we make it more streamlined? How can we deploy this at scale? And we'd like to do more. We'd like to push new versions of our technology to the marketplace. We'd like to integrate with other services. I have seen some patterns to integrate into SAP and Salesforce. Of course, we have all of that. It's still early days for us, but thanks to what we have seen, I would like really to test out this because this will bring us into a more complete view of the customer and the world, and then this can really help us understand what are really their needs. How can we redesign our new devices, not only on the field, but also how we can redesign some of the systems on the cloud, like questions I would ask everyone. Do you deploy one fabric or 10 fabrics? Do you deploy one APIM or many more? And how can you do it in an automated way? Because we operate with a small team, I guess like many of you. And in our case, we have more than 2,100 components, and we are technical teams about 20 people. So we really cannot do this manually. We have so many things. Systems run 24/7 with external customer support as well. So we really need to think again how we do things. And yeah, equally, I'm looking forward to hearing from you how you do it, or if you have any more ideas, more than happy to discuss during the lunch break. Yeah.
Thank you, Christos. I think, and thank you for Sensiv. It was an awesome customer story as well. We have put it here a couple of links for the new announcements. Some of them we announced at Build, so they are quite fresh. And there will be additional sessions where we'll see more details. And we have this API Management Lab, APIM Lab landing page that has the latest updates, and you can see the blog from the team. And of course, we want to know, from you, we want to know product feedback so that the product could improve over time.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of the conference.